Ahoy everyone, it's Jeff aka Godless Scummer. Welcome to this stream that I wasn't planning on doing, but after watching another stream this morning I kind of thought, yeah, why not, let's do a review of this. Joining me I've got Andrew. I think, Andrew, this is the first time you and I have actually spoken to each other on stream.
I believe so.
I think it is. Yeah, I know you were watching some of this thing earlier, weren't you, as well? So
Yeah, so I had about half an hour left of the stream to watch when my time ran out.
okay. Oh, it's actually I'll just tell you that John pretty much just rage quits and ends the stream at the end. There's a spoiler alert. That's John Richards. So yeah, we're going to be reviewing. There's a stream on John Richards' channel yesterday in which he had John Hamill on. John Hamill's a former secretary of Atheist Alliance International and was formerly involved with Atheism Ireland, I believe. And he left AAI in 2017, and he's been very, very critical about some of the people who kind of took over and where the organisation went in there, including John Richards. I guess people who perhaps haven't watched me for sort of 2 years or so, just to let you know, I don't have the highest opinion of John Richards, going back to that whole debacle with that convention he was organising in the UK with where an incident with David Worley and his just horrific interview he did with Navadia and Shannon Q.
Likewise.
Well. So yeah, I don't exactly, and yet One Ring's got it in the complain. That's him. That's
the meme.
Yeah, that was. So yeah, I haven't had the highest opinion of John Richards going back to then, to be honest. But yeah, there's been I don't know all the ins and outs about what's happened with AAI, but I know John Hamill and he's been involved with Free Thought Profit podcast. That he's been very, very critical, and I know a number of others have been, about the way that organization's been run. And yeah, so this is we're gonna review bits of this stream. I'm gonna say I've got Andrew in there, but if anyone else wants to come in, give me a shout. I'll send you a link. So that's as far as I'm concerned, that can include John Richards if he wants to come on and make and explain himself. I'm more than happy to fucking talk to the guy. I don't know about you, Andrew, but if he actually does want to explain himself, he's more than welcome to, as far as I'm concerned. But
I don't know. Can you keep it family friendly for him?
Well, let's just put it this way, John Richards. If you're listening to this and you do want to come on, be warned. There'll be some cussing involved. With if you're not comfortable with that, tough fucking shit. As far as I'm concerned,
that language is just fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking horrendous. Hey, I left it to 5 minutes, but it doesn't matter because this channel's not monetized anyway. So the swearing is actively encouraged on this channel. So I'll bring let me. I haven't shared the screen yet, have I? Let's bring up the wonderful John here, Mr. Richards. I've put this at 1.5 speed because this whole stream's about 2.5 hours long. So, and I don't know how much of it we'll get through. So, I decided to put it on 1.5 speed. If you need me to slow it down, just say. Okay, let's go and see what this numpty's got to say.
Is in our usual audience. I think we've got some new viewers tonight. So here she is. This is Tercia. Hello, Tercia. How are you?
Hello. I'm well. I'm very well, thank you.
So,
good. I'm pleased to hear that.
Okay.
How is it in South Africa? Is it cold?
It's cold, but which is good. And we are expecting some snowfall in the coming days. But just before I started, I changed the gas bottle on my heater, so I'm warm and comfy and looking forward to tonight's show.
Good, good. Shall we introduce our honoured guest? Here he comes.
I think I should just explain this this woman Tercia is his co-host, and I think
supposedly the moderator.
Yeah, supposedly she's a neutral moderator in this, trying to keep it all straight and trying to find out what's going on and everything. But well, if we get that far into this, people will see where she goes with this.
This is John Hamill. Hello, John.
Hi, folks. How are things? I hope you're well.
Yep, we're all fine, thank you. Tercia, since John and I we've got some previous, we've been in communication before, so I'm going to ask you to be in a sort of moderator role today. And John, I'd like to make sure that we're a family-friendly show. We don't use strong language.
Okay.
My daughters sometimes watch this. So how the devil are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
Good. Now you're in
That
Ireland.
are wrong.
Ireland.
No, I'm south of the border.
Are you? Oh, right. Okay. But it's a predominantly, or it was until quite recently, a strongly Roman Catholic country, wasn't it?
The Republic of Ireland in the south is indeed. I think at the last census it was 78% Roman Catholic.
You're right, Barry.
We can debate
Absolutely
how much
was.
of that is cultural versus adherence to catechism. But at least in terms of how people describe themselves in the census, yes, I think it's fair to say it's strongly Roman Catholic.
So I wanted to announce to everyone that in many respects, John, you and I are kindred spirits.
Okay.
We're both atheists, and we're both former directors of Atheist Alliance International. You were the secretary, and I was briefly called the...
Oh, what happened there?
Oops.
Oh, don't please tell me, John Richards, you haven't taken this down. Please tell me that hasn't happened.
The affiliates director before becoming the editor of Secular World, the House Journal. And eventually I became publications director, but I'll tell you more about that later. However, we didn't overlap. You'd already gone before I was co-opted on. And I myself left AAI 1.5 years ago. So for this show, I'm not acting on behalf of any organization. I'm just being me.
Okay. Although that's not quite true, John. So you didn't leave 1.5 years ago. As you said, you were co-opted onto the board in 2017. You were required to be elected before the end of 2017. Because you weren't elected, you were required to resign and leave the board. So from 1st of January 2018, you were no longer a director of Atheist Alliance International, even though you pretended to be. You did so corruptly and dishonestly, and that was really appalling behaviour on your part.
Well, I was going to ask you. In fact, I was going to invite you to give the account of your... I know you've got a grievance against AAI, and I was going to invite you.
I'm going to say that's one thing I say. John Hamill does not hold back on John Richards at all. He very openly tells him what he thinks of him.
Repeatedly.
Yeah. Which I find that kind of funny, to be honest. So I will just say I have put the link to this stream in the chat. If people do want to, I'm going to pin it. Just give me a second. Well, I'm going to try and pin this comment. Oh, bugger. I can't seem to do that right now. But if anyone does want to come in, they're welcome to. But just so you know, I do kind of have my little rules here that if I don't know who you are, I won't let you in because I've been pawn bombed before, so I've got to be a little bit careful. So I don't know why it's not letting me pin that comment, but oh well, it's in the chat anyway. I'll put this play for a little while.
Due to go into the detail of that in a minute, but you've presumpted that. That's not a word, is it? You've preempted that. Sorry, Tercia. Oh, we can't hear you, Tercia.
Why not? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Crystal clear, Tercia. Yes.
Yep.
All right. So, John, I've been co-hosting with John Richards for a while now, and when he told me about tonight's interview, I said to him, I want to know as little as possible for the express purpose of being unbiased. So I know absolutely nothing, and I'm honestly sincere about that. So
okay.
So you very quick. You said that. So it sounds to me as if the trouble is that you are alleging that John Richards and AAI are basically guilty of misconduct. Is that so? Because of John's position on the board, just run through with me because I've made a note here. So obviously I had a board, and John was on the board, and he had to be elected. Is that right?
Hold on.
Not quite. So there really is
Barry,
an appalling
hello.
litany of dishonesty.
Hi.
Hi, we met before.
No, but do you want to know who I am?
You Barry Purcell in the chat, are you?
I'm Barry Purcell on the chat. I am also a regular guest on the Free Thought Prophet podcast, which is
I thought I recognised your voice actually.
my voice. Well, how about that?
Yeah,
That's impressive.
Okay.
But I'm a regular guest on the Free Thought Prophet podcast, which is a podcast run by John Hamill and Seamus, the other lad on the podcast. And I've been pretty much in 90% of the shows they've done, which are many, about AAI.
So you probably know way more about what's going on than I do. Then I've caught bits and pieces of it. I've watched some of them. I see John's in the chat actually now as well.
Oh, good.
Good
If you can get John on, that he'd be much better than I am. John's sorry.
You want to join, mate? If you want to join, John, let me know if you want to come in, mate. You're more than welcome.
Do you know what I like about you, mate? Godless scummer. Let me tell you. What I like about you is I talked over you there and you did not mute me.
Oh, we could do some. Yeah.
If John comes on, I'll drop out because John is a far superior person to have as a source of information than I am.
He was in the thick of this yesterday as well.
Yes, he holds himself together remarkably well, in my opinion. I think John Richards and Terce du Plessis were trying to goad him into some sort of an explosive reaction, because, as I said in the chat, John is not known for keeping his feelings to himself. And it is to John's credit that he did not fall for that. He did not use one naughty word that would. Oh, you're gone. Are you okay?
No, I'm fine.
There you are.
I just had to mute off camera for 2 secs. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Is that you in the icon picture?
Yeah. The corpse paint on. Yeah.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Big fan of that, mate. Well done. Anyway, yeah, but John is the man to get on. If you can get him on here, I don't know if he's busy or anything today. Like I can talk about things that I've seen and so on, but John was right in the middle, like you said, in the thick of it, Malcolm Tucker style. He was right in the thick of it, you know. Yeah. I do, yeah, but I don't have John's facility with names and dates and numbers and so on. I can just talk about my feelings.
Yeah, I've seen a few of the episodes of Free Thought Prophet, and I've seen. I know John's been on with Cheshire Vic,
yes,
Steve as well. I think.
Yes.
I've listened to a couple of the streams with Shirley from Puerto Rico.
Shirley is fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, so because she's been recently has come out very strongly about what's going on in AAI.
Yes, she also has found it very difficult to keep her feelings to herself, and her problems. The thing about AAI is it's such a massively corrupt and stupid organization that there are different groups of people who have very strong feelings against it, and whose expression of those feelings don't really overlap. Like a lot of Shirley's problems with AAI are completely different to John's problems with AAI, but they're still as emotionally expressed. Which is very, I mean, and there's people in other parts of the world as well. There's a guy in Argentina who was an ex-president and he's not happy with them. There's a Greek guy called Panayiotis Dimitras, who's a co-founder of the Humanist Union of Greece. And he wrote a fairly damning invective tirade against AAI and their disordered view of what democracy means. There's people all over the place. And these people all complained about AAI independently of each other. Like we didn't know anything about Shirley Rivera until she posted her long letter about why they had to disassociate themselves. Not just her, but all of the Latin America affiliates disassociated at the same time, which is major. And if you've seen Shirley, yes. And if you've seen Shirley talking, she speaks very powerfully and very clearly in a way that I might not, because I tend to use very deflective language and nice words, you know, when I don't have to.
I think other than a couple of interactions on Twitter, I've never actually spoken to Shirley, but I definitely wouldn't mind talking to her at one point.
She's amazing. Yeah, she has a head for numbers and dates and so on, and she knows things because she was CC'd on various. AAI is, according to hereticals, AAI is a shambles. Yeah. It's an omni-shambles. I'd say it's worse than a shambles. I'd say it's an omni-shambles. I'd say it's a catastrophe. AAI is a shambles. In its current state, it does more damage to atheist cause than it helps. Certainly, I
agree with that, Chris. Yeah, I agree with that, Chris.
A lot of the kickback people like the podcast I'm on would get would be things like, why are you trying to harm atheists in trouble by damaging this organization? Because this organization helps atheists in trouble in various far-flung locations where atheism is regarded as a crime and so on. And that, I mean, they do help. They have done lots of good things, I guess. I'm not going to cluster trash them for no reason. But the question then becomes, well, first of all, how much do we congratulate people for the trains running on time? And secondly, should you really, I mean, that would be like saying to Woodward and Bernstein, why do you want to destroy America?
I had another analogy that because this comes up a few times in the stream, and when we get back to playing it in a second, I viewed it as the Catholic Church defense.
Same here.
That's how that's how it came across to me. It's like, yeah, okay, our priests might have done all this stuff with children, and we may have covered it up, but we feed starving children in Africa. You know, come on.
That is disturbing to hear, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how it. I mean, I know that. Okay, that's an extreme.
No, it's not. It's exactly the same logic.
It is. Yeah, it's the same reasoning behind it, though.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say my train's running on time. You know, that's what they used to say about fascism. Like, oh, well,
Yeah.
you know, we made the trains run on time. I said, yeah, the trains are supposed to run on time. That's great. But also, there was a bunch of other stuff happening, and I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't see any benefit to discussing the good stuff the Catholic Church does. That's fine. I have no problem with the good stuff the Catholic Church does, but it's worthless to discuss it, in my view.
Yeah. But that's yeah.
What?
And I was just saying, hereticals are saying the constant muting in the stream and it was poor form, and Tercia isn't a neutral moderator. She's basically John's defense lawyer.
Yes, Tercia started off fairly neutral in the stream, and as time goes on, it emerges that she's clearly on his side.
Yeah, I thought that was my initial thought. Was actually, I thought she seemed okay to begin with, and we have only literally just started this. And
I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody.
Yeah, as it goes on, and right before she really jumps off the cliff at the end, towards the end of her time in here as well.
She jumps off the cliff into fascism, as far as I remember.
Yeah,
she says some openly fascist things. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll play a bit more of this
on John's part over these issues, so it's difficult to know where to begin. But let's start with the first dishonest statement that John has made this evening that I picked him up on. So to answer your question directly, Tercia, in the bylaws, there was a provision to co-opt a director onto the board without being elected. So the purpose of that, as you might imagine, is, you know, if a director falls ill or can't continue with their duties for some other reason, you shouldn't have to wait until the AGM at the end of the calendar year to elect a new director. You can co-opt someone on. So John was co-opted on in that way, but the bylaws very explicitly say that anyone who's co-opted in that manner must be elected at an AGM by the members before the end of the year. And if they're not elected at an AGM by the members before the end of the year, then they must resign. And that word is in the bylaws. It says they must resign. John did not arrange an AGM. He did not seek election by the members. The sum total of AAI members who have voted for John Richards ever is precisely 0, ever. And even though he was entirely illegitimate, he continued to dishonestly present himself as a director on the board of AAI and took a series of really appallingly anti-democratic decisions after that. But I mean, I don't think any of this is in doubt. I think that, I mean, the question for John is, you were supposed to arrange an AGM before the end of 2017, and if not, you were supposed to resign.
See, okay, I'll just pause that there, because this seems to be the common, you know, thread that I've heard from what I see about this, is that he was, I mean, he in the group of people who were there at the end of 2017, from my understanding, it was pretty much a coup d'etat in AAI at this point. That's pretty much my my understanding of this whole situation.
Yes.
So
it's a coup d'etat is exactly what it was.
Yeah, and I mean, and yeah, and I understand. Look, yeah, sometimes it's the same with any sort of like group where there's a board or it's a club with a committee or something. Yeah, you can co-opt somebody on or something if someone has to step away for whatever reason, they've stepped away. Yeah, you can co-opt them on for the remainder of like the year or whatever, and then at the end of the year, there's generally a voting, you know, a voting process if they want to continue in the role that they got to stand for election. I mean, that's a standard thing for like committees or whatever. So, oh, we lost Barry.
He dropped.
says his device isn't connected, so hopefully he'll come back in. And I think we got him back.
Sorry, that was actually something. That was something I did. Sorry, that was not you. I tried to get my camera going and I hit the wrong button, and my camera still isn't working. So never mind. But yes, it was in the bylaws of the organization that any organization would have those bylaws. This is not rocket science. That if you have someone co-opted onto the committee, they will resign, and then you have an AGM and blah blah blah. And that's not what happened. And then they changed the bylaws. Oh, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, this is my understanding of pretty much what happens there, and so anyway, let's go back to this because there's a hell of a.
Why did you not arrange an AGM, and why did you not resign?
Okay, well, is that all you want to say about your accusations to AAI?
Well, that's my initial response to the first dishonest statement that you've made. So I think that would be a good place for you to start.
Thank you. Okay, well, let me have my say then. Okay. Recently, John, you published on Twitter an email that was sent by me to the then board of AAI, dated the 13th of December 2017. I'm going to put that on screen for our benefit. Let me see if I can find it.
Totally irrelevant.
Wait, you're going to love this.
So is this presentation that you've prepared, John, is this by way of answering the question that I've asked, or are you going to avoid that question? I mean, could you just answer briefly? Why did you not resign when the bylaws required you to resign?
Briefly.
John Hamill, when
okay, stop it there for a second. Stop it there for a second.
At the end of 2017, because he had no mandate.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Okay, now what he's done here is he wanted to put up an email that John sent to him to blah, blah, blah. John Richards, what he has done here is he has accidentally put up a sheet of paper, which was clearly the script he intended to use for this podcast. So if you look down through it, there's even a bit where it says, I think it says full screen me at some point.
Oh, let's have a look. Hold on.
It's got stage directions and everything.
I'm just going to oblige this if I can. Oh my God.
You see it?
Holy crap, I didn't know that.
Right. That is the script he wanted to use again. So this whole thing, in other words, being full screening himself and so on and so forth, all of this was prearranged in advance. He was trying to get John to act in a certain way, and John didn't go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I've got to be honest. I've not had a high opinion of John Richards for a couple of years now. You know, and I don't know if you caught the. I think somebody's just joined. Oh, Chris, good to see you, mate.
Good evening. How are we all?
Hello, Chris.
Yeah, not too bad. I know you watched this yesterday.
G'day, Chris. He's Australian, is he?
Certainly am.
All right, good for you, bud.
So we got a Brit, an Irishman, 2 Aussies in here now, so it's good.
So it sounds like the start of a joke. You know, we all going to walk into the pub.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
When do we get our drinks?
I'm the Irish guy. I'm going to end up dead at the end of this joke.
Chris, you've got a unique perspective because you know John Richards. I mean, you spoke to him numerous times. So, I mean, I don't think I've ever actually spoken directly to John Richards. You've had dealings with the guy, haven't you? So you kind of know him.
Yeah, look, I've got a interesting relationship, I think you'd say, with John. I felt a bit sorry for him. Initially, I interviewed him years ago and had a bit of a cancel mob try to get me on board to cancel him. And I just don't, anyone who knows me knows that I don't do that kind of stuff. And we've sort of had a few conversations over the years. Funnily enough, he actually at one point had a conversation with me about becoming the Australasian director for AAI, but it never was going to happen. Well, that's a long story. But I guess I went into this stream with a fairly open mind because I've always sort of thought, look, John, I think his intentions are good, but he doesn't present himself very well. His PR, I guess, for lack of a better term, is terrible. But I'll tell you what, after watching this stream this morning, this morning for me, it was really uncomfortable. I went in fairly neutral, but I can tell you now, I've come out of that stream sort of really with my eyes open to some of the stuff that's gone on, and whether John was aware of, John Richards was aware of that, I'm not too sure, but certainly the way he approaches this stream, I thought was really poor form. I mean, he gets John Hamill on to interview him, constantly mutes the guy. He puts up the comments that he wants put up. He full screens himself and Tercia, and Tercia is in no way an impartial moderator. She's there as John's attack dog. You watch him whenever she's talking, he's got this little smirk on. The whole thing was a setup, as far as I'm concerned. Or it certainly looked like a setup, and it just. When stuff like that happens, it doesn't look good, especially considering the subject matter that's being discussed.
Yeah. I mean, if it was a setup to make John Hamill look bad, they failed miserably because I think just John Richards, of anyone I've ever seen on the internet, has this amazing gift for just coming off bad every time he ever seems to open his mouth. That's
Put him mouth.
Quite,
he managed to somehow come across as simultaneously superior, condescending, and a child. And I don't know how he manages to do that, but camera 1 and camera 2 appear to be operating at the same time all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, even little things he was doing, like saying to John Hamill, "Oh, don't forget to say dishonest" as well. It was a real, I think, considering what the subject is. I mean, look, if John Richards had done nothing wrong and he genuinely believed that nothing ill had happened, or there was just genuine misunderstanding, which, look, misunderstandings can happen in boards. I've been on boards where a week or two after some things happen, it's sort of been realized, oh, hang on, we can't do that, or that's outside the bylaws. Someone brings it up, and you go and address it immediately. So, considering that was his opportunity to clear any of that up, I think the way he approached it was baffling. I mean, because I don't think he's an unintelligent person. I think maybe he's, when it comes to common sense, or awareness, I think he can sort of miss out on things sometimes. But I don't think he's unintelligent. But the way this was approached was really
unintelligent.
It was odd. Yeah, and look, I mean, I think he thinks out of it that he's got to win. That he's shown John Hamill, and he's sort of, I think he's beating his chest a bit as if he's won something. But I mean, I think even anyone who is an ardent John Richards supporter, not that there would be a lot of them, but anyone who sort of follows him and is fairly familiar with him, even the most ardent couldn't really sit back after watching that and say nothing to see here, because it's pretty clear that there is a lot to see here.
Chris, you've taken a very charitable attitude to John Richards there, and I commend you.
Look, maybe it's because it's late at night here, and I'm just trying to be polite. But look, I've gotten on with John for a while. I guess in a what I call a polite conversation. Every now and then he'll have an idea that he wants to run by me. We've never really done anything together, but we've had a couple of conversations. Maybe every few months we'll have a conversation. In fact, I had a conversation with him a few weeks ago about something completely separate. But so I've never had a bad relationship with the man. But I think it's. I was very uncomfortable with what I saw, and my initial sort of thoughts are, there's something. It doesn't pass the sniff test, or as we call it here in Australia, it doesn't pass the pub test. I know that boards I've sat on where you've had issues, like I mentioned, when you find out, you address them straight away. Now, if you found out that, oh, hang on, we didn't have an AGM where someone was meant to be elected, what you do is you call an AGM or you call a members meeting at the first possible occasion and say, look, here's what's happened. We're aware of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to call for a vote, or, if there's anyone else who would like to nominate, because it's also in the bylaws that if only one person nominates, then you don't need to hold a vote because there's one person. So it's not that difficult to do. It's also not that difficult to say 30 days out from an AGM, call for nominations, which is standard for any organization like this.
Correct.
Wait for nominations to come in, and if there is only one nomination, well then that's it. They're elected unopposed. But you at least have to go through the process. You have to have in the minutes that, for the role of secretary or whatever else, there was one nominee, such and such. The vote is carried. That's it. It's a really simple process. You have to have it in the minutes. If it was in the minutes, that clears the whole thing up. But obviously there's nothing in the minutes. The processes haven't been followed, and it's essentially been co-opted without any member consultation.
Chris, what they would call in Australia, Clayton's AGM.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, shall I play a little bit more of this then? I just realized we're only like 10 minutes
Okay,
into
so he was
this
supposed to resign at the end of December 2017. Okay, cool.
So, do you mind just answering that question, John? Why did you not resign at the end of 2017?
Yes, I'm happy to. But you'll have noticed that I didn't interrupt you. I let you have your say. So are you going to let me have mine?
That's not true.
So let's look at the email. I'd like to see the email.
Good. Yeah, I think so too. So
I'm just going to say it now, Chris. Daft Dawkins, anyone?
Oh, he completely Darth Dawkins. He completely did Darth Dawkins. Why are you interrupting me? Stop over talking me. Even we're about to get to this bit where there's this 10-minute rant, which includes a 5-minute video presentation that he says at the end of it, and I'll give you the same amount of time. And I think John Hamill gets about 30 seconds after before everyone interjects.
Can you explain what you say, Daft Dawkins?
Daft Dawkins.
Daft Dawkins. He's this Christian pre-supper who's just got a rep. He's just well known for being an arsehole.
Okay.
Let's just put it that way. He's just a well-known fucking asshole.
Okay, so John Richards is just being a well-known fucking asshole in this. That's the reference to that. Okay, sure.
If you don't know Darth Dawkins, it's all the better for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I will not Google. I was just about to Google. I won't Google.
But he's one of his little trademarks of Daft Dawkins is that he'll talk on for ages and ages and ages. And you try and get anything back in return. He's like, stop interrupting me.
Ah, yes. No, he's being a Daft Dawkins. Daft Dawkins.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so
it's
that's
sort of a gish gallop thing, the opposite of a gish gallop, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, gish gallop sounds right.
Well, I thought just funny because I think later in this is what he accused John Hamill
this
of doing.
Email. Go away. This is live. Sorry, I've got a child interrupting us here. So this email, which I don't contest or deny, this is what I wrote. And what's more important...
Remember, this isn't that email.
I sent you, John.
You're interrupting. That is exactly what you sent to the Twitter's feed where I screen grabbed it from. Okay? You published it.
No, it's not. But anyway, go ahead.
John tried to save him, and he said, no, stop interrupting.
The thing is, when I left AAI 18 months ago, I ceased to have access to the confidential files of that organization, as is required by company regulations. And you left AAI even long before me in February 2017. So neither of us are part of AAI now. So we shouldn't, and I don't, have access to the confidential files. So my first question to you, John, is how have you obtained access to the AAI confidential email base?
Okay, I'll answer that directly, John, and I hope that you'll answer my question once I answer yours. So,
spoiler alert, he never answers John's question.
What you put on the screen here is not what I sent you on Twitter. What I sent you on Twitter was just a few lines. Not all of the text that you've put up here. It's quite small. I can't read it, perhaps. What I sent you is a subset of this, but I received that from a whistleblower who does have access to those emails. There have been quite a few whistleblowers within AAI.
I think that's an important point to mention here. That there's people still. I guess there's people who are still involved with AI that don't like what's been going on. We know some people have blown away. You said this earlier, Barry, when you come in. It's not just John Hamill that's raising problems here.
Yes. I can name people who are happy to be named on this, and there's a bunch of people, of course, who are unhappy to be named for one reason or another. But people who would be happy to name are Shirley Rivera, who was the Latin American affiliate and represented all the Latin affiliates and disaffiliated all the Latin American affiliates at the same time. We were in one of our podcasts, had a guy who used to be the president, and he said, oh, you can all calm down now because apparently we've managed to talk back one of the Latin American affiliates back into the organization. What he was referring to was a Spanish organization because apparently now Spain is in Latin America. According to these people. Todos los hispanohablantes de un país ahora. ¿Qué pasó eso? No sé. Anyway, That's
Well,
that.
well, if you have a look at the website, they've also got Iran as being in Europe. So I don't think
famously not in Europe, Iran. Yes. Also, a guy called Panayota Dimitras is happy to go on the record. He was the co-founder of the Humanist Union of Greece, and I was on the podcast as well, the Free Thought podcast, to explain his angle of the thing. And he's quite angry about he wasn't given an invite. He was his organization, which. See, I'm a guy with a keyboard and a camera. Do you understand? That's it. But this guy is an actual atheist activist and a human rights activist, and he goes to court and he currently has an arrest out warrant for him for doing all these human rights stuff. The man's a human rights machine. And they told him he was an informal delegate and therefore did not merit an invitation to the AGM. Because they developed delegates into formal. This has nothing to do with the podcast. This is even more bullshit. I'm sorry for making it even longer than it has to be. But they divide up everybody into informal and formal delegates with no criteria anywhere written for what makes somebody informal or formal. And I can suggest that what makes you informal is if they think you might vote against their amendments. But that's a separate issue.
Were these two categories in the bylaws previously before the bylaws changed?
I'm not party to that information. I would think not, but I can't tell you for certain. I'm sure somebody in the chat, John will know that.
I do have the AAI bylaws sort of in front of me, but there's a lot of them to try and find.
Just Control F informal and see if it comes up. Sorry, I'm not telling you what to do, man. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's a yeah. I had it marked bylaw 59, I think, because that comes up a bit later in this stream. So I had it kind of by marks around there, sort of marks around there, because I know
Hamill will know.
The thing though is with the membership for AAI, it's not just atheist organizations. It's like blogs, like somewhere. So I mean, like I've got the YouTube channel Hereticals, and I can't see any reason why Hereticals couldn't become an affiliate when you have a look at some of the current affiliates they've got.
Free Thought Prophet was invited. The Free Thought Prophet podcast was invited to be a member of AAI.
Yeah, well, there you go. What it should be is actual atheist organizations on the ground.
Correct.
Yeah, you know, it's even I noticed, and one I dislike in Australia. There's a political party that's an affiliate of AAI, which I don't think should be a non-political organisation or a non-partisan organisation. But I think they've just kind of thrown in anyone that they can to make it look as though they're bigger than what they actually are.
Yes.
Yeah, because this comes up a bit later because John I know started bragging about how many more affiliates they've got now or whatever than what they had in 2017, which is okay, you know, whatever.
Well, it's the old. You'd be aware of this term, Jeff. It's the old branch stacking.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
That's just what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Branch stacking.
Yeah. That's where it's a term in Australian and British politics where, because you've got the political parties, I guess they've got a branch in each seat that they run in. Yes. And what people would do is they would do what's called branch stacking, where in order to get themselves elected as the candidate, they have their mum, their wife, their cousin, their uncle, their neighbours. All these people would magically sign up as members. And vote for them.
And dead people.
Yeah, you name it. It's
basically like rigging elections.
Exactly
like that. Yeah.
Oh, just I see. Branch stacking. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm learning
stacking the branch in your favour.
Thank you very much. I'm learning lots of things today.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to Mr. Richardson's
one. I think a very brave and honourable person has since gone public, who's Shirley Rivera. So she raised lots of problems within AI through the proper channels. Only when she was treated really appallingly and refused any route to rectify the corrupt actions within that board, she then left and went public. And part of going public was to publish some of those internal emails. Shirley's not the only whistleblower. There are others. There's a whistleblower who has sent me some emails, including the email that I sent to you. The reason I sent you on that Twitter, John, is because you weren't telling the truth on Twitter. On Twitter, you were saying there was a problem with the membership system and you didn't know who the members were, and that's why you couldn't arrange an AGM. The email that you've just put on screen, if it's the same one that I sent to you on Twitter, demonstrated that just wasn't true, that you had all of the member details sorted out. It was perfectly possible for you to send an email to all of the members by the end of 2017 to arrange an AGM. And so that's why I sent you the email to demonstrate that you weren't telling the truth when we were talking about this on Twitter. And how I got access to it was through a whistleblower who's concerned that you, among others, were repeatedly making untrue statements about AI in public. And the whistleblower sent me that information because this person was aware that you were making untrue statements about your recorded AI. So that's where I got the email from. And now that I've answered your question directly, perhaps you'll answer mine. Why did you not resign at the end of 2017?
I'm coming to that, but
he's not coming.
He never arrives.
Yeah. He's coming to that very, very, very slowly.
Yes, like Xeno and the turtle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of very classic. Trying not to answer questions. It's very classic here what he's doing.
It's a standard political move, and John Richards has got a background in politics. Yeah, it's just
yeah, but it's not very well executed. It's sloppy and incompetent because it's so obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that's
Yeah.
I didn't say it was high level politics.
Okay, sorry, Chris.
Well, I'm really funny. We've seen him trying to employ some of these tricks before, and some other people that I've seen who've interviewed him. You know,
Yes. I saw an
And
absolutely
Well,
awful.
that's why they got me
Sorry.
to interview him all those years ago. Sorry, incidentally, being in Australia, there is a little bit of a delay. So if it ever sounds like I'm talking over you or I ever do talk over anyone, it's not intentional, I promise you.
Yeah, we're good.
I'll meet you, Chris.
Yeah. Good on you. I'll call you Jeff Richards.
Oh,
Oh,
no, come
That's why
on.
they got me to interview him years ago, because I've got a background in politics as well, and you know, when that kind of stuff happens, I can pick it a mile away and bring it back. But John's had a bit of training in that. He knows what he's doing, and he avoids it, and then goes on later to say, I have answered it. I did answer it. I did answer the question, which is once again standard, you know, how to answer something you don't want to in politics.
I've also seen him in an interview with another girl. I can't remember her name, but he did this thing which he can't possibly have gotten from politics, where he shouts somebody down by just repeating the same word, which is, I guess, is the first word of whatever sentence he wants to say over and over again.
Complain.
Yes.
That was the Navadia one. Yeah, mine was a follow up
Yes.
to that.
It was like you, and that's something that you would expect a 3-year-old to do. Like, that's not an exaggeration. You would expect a 3-year-old to do something like that, but not a grown man. It's just, and he does a touch of that with John here in this podcast, as you will find out.
Yeah. So,
thank you for explaining to me how you got hold of that information. Now, you'll notice that once again, I listened to you without interruption.
Oh, fuck
I
off!
notice you're not answering the question, John.
I'm hoping I'm going to have to mute your mic. Don't forget I can do that. I don't want to, but I'm hoping that you will give me the opportunity to respond without that being necessary. So,
Imagine if it was a
looking
drinking
at the
game every
image
time he
on
mutes
that
the mic.
email, we can see something of the state of the board.
I could actually say, I think if he's saying, look, I'll answer the question, and he's just refusing to, I think John Hamill's well within his rights to interrupt him and say,
Yes.
look, no, will you answer the bloody question? I've been trying to get you to answer for the last 20 minutes.
Imagine watching this
Hamill
live
behaved-
last night.
I can imagine, yeah. I mean, I caught, like I said, I caught it on the replay. I think so did you, Chris. I think Andrew, you hadn't quite.
I was
finished
just watching it a few moments ago.
Yeah. So
frustrating.
Yeah, Hamill behaves exactly how Richard should be behaving in this whole thing. He answers questions, but he also goes back back to the things that he wants to talk about. Richard should get some advice from him on how to conduct himself.
I think in the interest of being fair, the only thing I didn't really like from John Hamill was I thought he went on the attack when I don't necessarily know if it was the right thing to do or the way he went about it. Although that being said, by the sort of midway through the podcast, I think it was very appropriate, but because of the way he was being treated. But I think throughout this, John Richards just you don't invite someone onto your podcast and then constantly mute them. Like John Hamill didn't show up to listen to a John Richards lecture, but that's what he got.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's play a bit more.
That I'm not sure I've given you the right image, actually.
No, he figures it out.
What you put on the screen isn't what I sent to you before.
No, you're right. Sorry, that's my mistake. I am sharing you the right one now. Here it comes. Is it this one? Let's have a look. That's it. Yeah, sorry. I apologise for sharing the wrong. Yeah, good. For sharing the wrong document.
John, can I just ask, before you continue to share the document, John Hamill, I want to know, as somebody who has no information, this is 5 years ago. Well, how is this, what is the relevance? Why should somebody like me, who has no idea, well, until fairly recently, I've never even heard of AI, how is this relevant in any way? It's 5 years ago. It seems to me that neither you nor John Richards are still involved with AI. So what's the relevance? Why is it so important?
That is such a
sure, that's a good question.
Yep.
But because it's not just.
Sorry, Chris, what was that?
That's a disingenuous question. That's a setup question. Playing the, I know nothing about this. I know nothing about this. I'm calling bullshit on that.
It is disingenuous from her, but it's not a bad question, like as an independent question. Why would anyone give a shit about anything?
I do think it's a bad question. The reason I do is because if we're talking about a matter of potential corruption in an international organization, then I think it's fair to ask the question, especially when both people have been involved.
Well, yes, but I mean, from her point of view, as somebody who's claiming to be an independent observer, it's not a bad question.
Okay, yeah,
I'm always a big fan of any question like, why would anyone give a shit about this, no matter what you're involved with, ever.
I think, I think it depends on. Yeah, if you're coming into this with no context whatsoever of what's gone on, I don't think it's a bad question. Now, I question whether she genuinely had no context or had never even heard of AI until several weeks ago.
No, she was briefed.
Yeah, I mean, just from the way this thing went, I'm like, right, I call bullshit when you say you didn't know what all this was about. I call bullshit on that. Shall we continue?
About what happened 5 years ago. So at that point that we were discussing, Persia, in 2017, AI was the only based group in the world that had special consultative status at the United Nations and participatory status at the Council of Europe. And lots of people put in lots of time and effort to go through onerous processes in order to acquire that status. So the part of those processes involve demonstrating adherence to democratic standards. So specifically, if you turn up at the United Nations, so for example, people from AI have presented to the full United Nations Human Rights Council, which is the human rights representatives of literally every country represented in the UN, all gathered together, listening to the AI representative. And in order to be facilitated in doing that, the United Nations will only deal with international organizations. So even if you pick a very large atheist organization from any particular country, so let's say American Atheists or Freedom from Religion Foundation, someone like that, those organizations cannot get UN status because they're from one country. You have to have democratic representation from multiple countries. And what the UN want to know is that the person turning up is expressing the settled consensus view as expressed democratically by all of their members across all of those countries. So there's a pretty onerous set of hoops to jump through in order to attain that status. What John and the rest of his dishonest and corrupt cult.
I think that's important, because that's important, especially what she's going to say later on. I think as well that to get this status with the UN, it's actually got to be a democratic organization and an international one.
Yes.
And
that's in the UN site. The UN website explains the criteria for which they will accept consultative organizations and give them consultative status at the UN. The Council of Europe has a website where they explain exactly the same thing, the criteria under which an organization can be considered for consultative status. Both of those are very clear that you have to have democratic institutions in your organization. Otherwise, they're not interested.
Yeah, that was my understanding of this, and I think it bears some relevance considering what she's going to say a little bit later.
Oh yes.
Was to completely destroy the democratic legitimacy of AI. So they changed the bylaws to remove the requirement to publish accounts. They changed the bylaws to remove AGMs. They changed the bylaws to remove the requirement of directors to be elected at all. They changed the bylaws to remove the ability of the members to pass motions that were binding on the board, essentially give themselves personal control of AI in a situation when they were representative of absolutely nobody. So whereas previously it was the case that AI representatives would turn up in the United Nations and make representations and presentations on behalf of dozens of atheist groups all around the world. Since then, since the corrupt and dishonest actions that John Richards and others took, we've had people turning up at the United Nations purportedly being elected and representative of AI, who were elected by nobody, who were representative of nobody, and that remains the case today. So shortly after John Richards did this, there was a letter sent to the Secretary General of Atheist Alliance International. As it happens, the letter was absolutely absurd. I mean, it was literally the kind of thing an 8-year-old would write. But yeah, it was written by the same people who corruptly took over AI and had no democratic mandate to do so. And they were presenting them just very quickly, John. I'm nearly finished.
No. Listen. You missed out. Dishonest. I'm trying to help you here. You called us corrupt again, but you forgot to say dishonest. Don't.
No, he does this. He interrupts him like this, sir. He interrupts him like this quite often to say you forgot to sound. He does this to interrupt John's thought process.
Yeah, and if John tries to even get a word in with him, it's mute.
Yes, and I let you speak. You don't interrupt me.
Yeah, that's what I just think that's why I just find it so blooming childish. Yeah. And I was just going to say, Ike, no, I don't think AI is trying to force atheism plus. I mean, I don't think that's what the issue is. So yeah, ring. Yeah, all those the classics. Complain. That's never going to get old.
No,
sorry, it's that.
Go on, Chris.
Thing. I was just really quickly going to say they're definitely not trying to force atheism plus. I think one of their directors is Tom Sheedy from Atheists for Liberty, and he's definitely not woke. I can assure you.
Exactly.
My only complaint about Hamill's behaviour would be the repeated epithets. I mean, I understand him repeating them once, but he repeats them as many times as he possibly can.
Oh, Andrew, that was toned down from what he was thinking, I can promise you.
I can believe you. I mean, it was a family show.
Also, one of the reasons they gave for saying that they had to take over the organization, it was in crisis and so on, that isn't mentioned at all on this podcast, but we have internal correspondence that we saw, which said they were first of all afraid that feminists were going to take over. And then somebody pointed out to them that like feminists taking over mightn't be the worst thing. And then they said, oh yeah, by feminists, we mean woke people.
Well, here's the thing though, if it's a democratic organization, okay, here's the thing, if your membership is made up of woke people, or your membership's made up of more right-leaning people, if motions are put forward and they go through that democratic process, that's the way it goes.
Oh, look out, John Richards! Godless Scummers figured it out.
The only thing I'd say to that, and I'll come in from the other side of the political aisle on this one, there has been issues where you've had a large number of organisations that have been very put together in a very short period of time that have come in and I guess taken over a lot of mainstream organizations. Something like Atheist Alliance International should be apolitical. It should have no political affiliation. It shouldn't be woke. It shouldn't not be woke. It should be focused on actual atheist issues and representing them, not focused on all the other stuff that is really irrelevant to the mission.
Correct.
So I can understand that concern, because that was a genuine concern, and it was something that we did see in a number of organizations a few years ago. It's not so much an issue anymore, but it's still, regardless of that is not an excuse to say, oh, we're worried that this could happen. That's no excuse to go and undemocratically take over an organization.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. So
forget that.
Okay, dishonest and corrupt, because they were doing the same thing that John Richards has been doing for some years, which John thinks is funny apparently, which is to represent yourself as a director of Atheist Alliance International when he wasn't a director of Atheist Alliance International. He had absolutely no mandate to do that. And so I think the people who continue to do what John Richards did for several years are entirely illegitimate and corrupt, and it's worth pointing that out without letting them continue to disgrace organised atheism at the United Nations in the way that John Richards did.
Okay, so what you're saying is that...
Sorry, Tercia, we've had 21 minutes of the show, and so far I've hardly been able to speak, and I don't think that's fair. So we're going to have me now, okay? So looking at the image that I shared, I don't know if I can share it with me again. Yes, here you go. Looking at the image, we can see something of the state that the previous board had let the organization get into. I hope you can see that. If you full screen it, it'll be big enough. 552 members of the full members, these are individuals, 552 of the 698 had lapsed. Now let's look at that's the second list down, second row down. The junior members, also 22 out of the 27 of them had lapsed. And if we go to the fourth row, you'll see that the affiliates, because this is supposed to be an affiliate organization, it's an organization of organizations, okay? And you can see that 45 of the 53 affiliated organizations had also lapsed. And the remaining ones that are described there as current, or what was it, 6 current and 2 overdue, those ones also lapsed during the course of the next few months. So you can see that the organization was in a bit of a state. And I'll be asking John how he'd allowed that to happen in a minute. But that's not the whole story, because the organization was hemorrhaging money faster than it was coming in. It had an expensive and unsuitable database system by the name of Salsa, which was costing in the order of $3,600 a year. Nobody could really operate it. It's too complex. And there was a resident of India who was being paid an annual salary of $6,000, which is fortune in that country, to edit the Secular World Journal. And the bank charges were just exorbitant. And this was all due to...
I'm going to pick up something here, which I actually think is pretty disgraceful, is saying that paying someone $6,000 is too much because they're in India.
Yeah.
And that's a fortune there. I mean, is that serious? I mean, like, I don't know what his understanding of India is, but there's some pretty wealthy people in India.
It seems degrading, doesn't it?
But regardless, I mean, you pay someone for the job they're doing. Now, if you paid someone $6,000 in the UK, you would pay someone $6,000 in India. If for an international organization, it shouldn't matter where they are. You pay them a fair fee, and you pay everyone the same. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, but I mean, what he is trying to do here is build it. This is big part of him building his narrative here. What this whole section is of.
Yeah, that it was bankrupt and collapsing.
Yeah, that the organization was such a complete mess. And it was, it was hemorrhaging money, blah blah blah. It was losing members. And if it wasn't for it, we had to take some drastic measures, like when we came in, to sort it all out. And that's his narrative throughout the whole thing. And I do think John actually does reply to this and say, "There's actually this organization was not the kind of mess you're making it out to be."
And by the way, if you screen capped the sheet of paper he accidentally put up before the one he meant to, he's actually reading from it almost verbatim, straight down, just reading the text of that document he accidentally put up.
Wow. That's
I
didn't screen capture that, but if anyone did, send that to me, because he's clearly. I mean, it's obvious to see he's going by a script here, though. It is pretty obvious. I mean, especially the fact that in a minute he's got that little video that he's puts up as part of his little presentation here.
Oh my word! The video.
Wouldn't someone more adept at politics be more flexible than need to rigidly follow a script?
We never said he was good at it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he said he's got a background in politics. It's like you said earlier, he didn't say it's high-end politics.
Look, I can see what he's trying to do, and there's some basic things he tries to do. But I mean, if he was adept at it, he would come across looking good at the end of it, which he doesn't. He just doesn't.
No, he doesn't at all.
Although, to his credit, at least he doesn't, say he's pro-dictatorship. I'll give him that.
Yeah,
He does have to
Yeah.
be. He does have to be cajoled into admitting that, though. Let's be honest.
He does, but you know, so it's
under duress. He will admit that he's against dictatorship.
I think John. I think what I gathered from this is John is a Democrat, and he loves John Richards. That is, he's a Democrat, and he loves democracy until it applies to him. That's what my takeaway from this whole thing.
Quite possibly.
To some very unwise decisions that had been made by the previous board. AAI was actually heading for bankruptcy. But even that's not the whole story, because the website was a disgrace. It hadn't been updated in about 2 years. It didn't work on mobiles. And some of the pages took visitors to porn sites. It was simply shameful for an organization of the nature of AAI. You couldn't direct anyone to it. It would be an embarrassment and discourage them from getting involved. And there was a webmaster who was on the payroll. I'm going to ask John how he managed to let.
Right. Any truth in that? Because he keeps going on to that about the website leading to porn sites.
I have no idea, but I mean, maybe it's true.
I mean, possibly. I don't know.
But even if it's true, the central logic doesn't make any sense at all. The website was not working correctly, so we had to take over the society. It makes no sense at all.
No, it just sounds like pretext.
Who's going to save international atheism from porn? Who's going to save international atheism from internet porn? John Richards.
But the thing is, it's okay. So say they change the website. I'm assuming it's still the same domain name. So if it's going to go somewhere, it's going to go somewhere.
Yeah, they were forced to keep the same page. Yeah, they were forced to keep the same domain name, which is Atheist Alliance International Sluts.com, and they had to keep that, which was embarrassing.
Guys, I'm going to be back in like 2 minutes. I'm going to go grab myself something to drink. I think I need one for the rest of this stream.
Yeah, but replacing the main the sort of introductory web page to a website is dead simple. So if there was porn on it or whatever, they could have just like put up a website in construction or something.
Or just fix the links, just ahref equals. That's the end of that problem.
Or do that.
Yeah.
I know nothing about it. I can type ahref equals.
I was going to say, I don't think John is overly adept when it comes to internet things based on a few conversations I've had with him. But Magdalena's just put in the chat, same domain name, new hosting or new hosting provider. So there's no need to change the website. And the website can be very expensive to redo a website. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of doing an update on it. If it's a matter of getting it right for mobile, I mean, look, most websites are either built off WordPress or Joomla, which there's plugins to basically make them mobile friendly. I
was just talking about if it was. I was just talking about if it was as urgent as Richards is claiming it was, what the simplest solution would have been. Well, they actually do follow through and do what you were suggesting, Chris. Sorry, go on, Barry.
I was just going to say, surely it's much cheaper to bollocks it, meaning to banjax it, Irish slang, to break it, just to stop it dead.
Yeah, or link or have it redirect to a Facebook page that's got a pinned message saying the website's down for a few days while we're redoing a few things. For any inquiries, please email here.
Check out Timmy Technical here at the bottom of the feed here, at the bottom of the YouTube feed. Timmy Technical, Hereticals Chris, who's so bloody good at computers, he can send a redirect from a website to a Facebook page.
I know it's really technical stuff. I should charge for that. And look, I've worked with enough organisations where the web companies will come in and try and stick it to because you get a lot of these boards where it's older people who have got no idea on anything to do with the online world. I've seen that, and so that does happen, and possibly they've had someone come in and say, "Oh no, we need to do this, this, and this." It's just a big sales pitch, and they get conned. But no, that's not a reason to need to urgently take over this whole thing. But even as it gets further in, John basically agreed. John Richards says he doesn't know how much was in the bank, but he's saying it was going bankrupt. Now, as the conversation furthers, if you to believe what John Richards said, it was losing $10,000 a year, but there was $50,000 in the bank. So even by that logic, they'd run out of money in 5 years, assuming nothing changed.
Well, that's what John Hamill says.
Which isn't unusual for an organization. Sometimes they have profit, sometimes they have loss. It depends on what the need is at the time.
I'm sorry. I had to go get. I'm back, guys. I needed cider.
Hey, man, how you doing? Oh, we sorted out everything while you were gone. It's all fine now.
Yeah.
It turns out we're all wrong. John Richards is a great guy.
Turns out we're all wrong.
Yeah, and so John for president.
There was no corruption on the board at all, it turns out.
Oh, if anything, Hamill's the prick in this one.
Shit, if that gets clipped, I'm screwed.
Yeah, well,
Luckily, he can't work out how to redirect to a website, so I think I'm safe.
I don't. Yeah, I think you're right. I think given his, he's probably the one person who's like less internet savvy than me. So I think you're safe, Chris. Right, let's
get into the state it was. But by far the worst of all, AAI didn't file for renewal of its license to operate as a charity with the California Department of Justice or the California Franchise Tax Board for a decade, not since at least 2013, when John was secretary, at least for part of that time. So the organization was en route to being disenfranchised by the wealthy state of California, where a large number of donors reside. So this is a question that John needs to answer, how his board allowed that to happen. Now, I want to tell you something about me and how I got to be in the situation that John calls corrupt and dishonest. And it is funny because nothing was further from my intentions. So when I joined, that was in September 2017, I was co-opted. Gail Miller was president and she was doubling as treasurer. And the impression I got was that the rats had abandoned the sinking ship. The previous secretary, one John Hamill, had left in February 2017. So at that time, AAI was in a perilous state. Someone needed to take it by the horns and mend the mess that it was in before it became terminal. It needed
And there's only one man who can save the day.
A new website,
John.
a reasonable price bank account,
Richards.
and entirely voluntary unpaid staff. Extreme.
Yeah. I love
This
it
is
when
all-
the plan
We didn't know
comes
we
together. Yeah.
This is all about liability shifting, okay? We all know that, we can see it. He's not attempting to address any of the issues being brought up. He's just trying to say, even if none of these issues happened, this is called kettle logic, by the way. Sigmund Freud called this kettle logic. None of these issues happened, and even if they did, it was nothing to do with me.
So I thought it's just the classic Shaggy defense, it wasn't me.
Also, the Shaggy
Chris, that isn't one of your sock accounts, is it?
No, I think that's the real Atangelo.
Atangelo, all right. Someone kick him from the chat. I think I told you weren't welcome round here anymore.
Oh, he's a Christian, is he?
Yeah, I told him ages ago he's no longer welcome round here. So someone,
Hey, Atangelo, Ezekiel 23:20 solves your problem.
If there's
Does
a
he
mod
look up
there,
Ezekiel
please kick the prick.
23:20?
I don't want him in my chat.
Because he keeps preaching, is it?
It's a bit of history there.
Oh, okay, never
He's
mind.
a friend
Yes,
of Darth Dawkins, we'll put it that way.
Okay, he's Daft Dawkins adjacent.
You're meeting all the classics tonight.
Oh, cool, yeah, I'm learning things. I like to learn things. Please continue.
Okay. Thank you, Critical Cupcake. Yeah, I told. The thing is, he knows he's not welcome round here anymore. I've told him.
Measures were needed to rescue the organization. A lot of work was required, thanks to the horrible mess the previous board had left it in. Now, my personal experience, John loves to personalize these things, so let me tell you about my personal involvement. As I said, I was recruited, co-opted on September the 15th, 2017. Initially, I was appointed affiliates director, but there were hardly any affiliates to direct, as you've just seen from that email that John sent me, which I've just shared on screen. This one, right? You can see the state of the affiliates right there. 6. And they left in the next few months. So the database was hopeless. We couldn't use the database. And it had to be migrated to a new provider of a more affordable price. So what could I do? I desperately tried to compile a new database from scratch using the internet search term atheist groups and a spreadsheet. Given that I didn't dare to show anyone the shameful website, that was a hopeless task. Anyway, before the new database became available to allow me to accomplish anything significant in that role, I was offered the editorship of Secular World, which was very acceptable to me because I enjoy writing. And that became the focus of my attention from March 2018 until I moved on at the end of 2020. And those magazines, Secular World Journal, can all be seen on the AAI website, and I'm proud of them. During my tenure, my role evolved into daily blogging on Patheos. I enjoy doing that too, although, of course, due to changes at Patheos, they've all gone religious now, and anything atheistic has been erased.
He goes way
And
on too
later
much
on,
about
I
his
started
love
making
of
videos because that means
riding.
of communication began.
So yeah, this is And yeah, I know John will address this. John Hamill does address this as well later on the stream. But yeah, the reason why the affiliates was described as lapse because the affiliates director failed to invoice them for the subscription renewals. And the affiliates director was John Richards.
Any relation to this John Richards?
I don't know. I don't know. Hey.
John Richards, yeah. Yeah, this is all John Richards, I'm amazing, which you should never put on your own podcast. Let other people in other podcasts tell you you're amazing. You don't go on your own podcast and spend 5 minutes saying, I'm amazing.
This is, yeah. But I mean, but this is brought up with a lot. I know this is brought up with a lot of the, you know, why a lot of it it's not necessarily stringent with every, because they're because of the nature of AAI, and it is an affiliation of different groups around the world. A lot of the time you can't apply the same sort of rules and standards or whatever to each member from each country, because we know there's certain countries in the world where you just cannot organize openly as a group of atheists.
You'll get murdered.
Countries. Yeah, I mean, you know, you can't have the same sort of standards for memberships, or I don't know, like a group in the UK as like a group in Iran, for example. You know.
Yeah, you'll get well, something bad will happen to you. You might actually get executed. Yeah,
so you've got to be a bit more lenient and accommodating to groups in countries like that, because we're lucky here. We can be openly be atheist and organized and whatever.
They cannot have something in their bank statement showing up that says a receipt from Atheist Ireland or Atheist Alliance International.
Yeah,
you know, that's good. That's a death sentence for some of those people. So they have to find other ways to deal with this.
It literally is a matter of life and death for some groups. I mean,
I'm so lucky where I live that I can say things openly.
Yeah, and some of or at the very least, it's a long jail sentence.
Yes,
but
or a whipping.
Yeah.
Like literally whipping. That's not. I know that came out kind of flippant, but literally a whipping.
Yeah, public flogging. Yeah,
public flogging. That's better. Yeah, thanks.
But even in non-atheist organisations, it's not unusual to have different levels of membership depending on circumstances. I mean, I've run business chambers and chambers of commerce, and we would have, for a small startup business, we would generally have, they wouldn't pay any membership, but then once they hit a certain level, certain number of employees, they go to the next tier. Or if they were a large business, it'd be a different tier again. Everyone had the same voting rights, and I don't see why that is such a controversial thing. I mean, you can't go and invoice everyone in the world $100 for their annual membership, apart from the fact that in some countries you can't have it show up. Not everywhere is as fortunate as the Western world where we are. I mean, if you're looking at that person in India where $6,000 is a fortune, I mean, were they charging them the same amount in India? Were they charging small Indian organizations the same as they would charge, American atheists? So you would imagine not.
Different cost of living.
Unless it's appropriate.
Yeah, well, like what Chris just said, it's very common for any organization to have different tiers of membership and to be depending on their ability or whatever. But also, the tiers of these tiers for Atheist Alliance International has very serious implications for the different delegates, depending on if they're in a country that could get them executed.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having zero cost memberships, because I mean, essentially the goal of Atheist Alliance International is to help atheists in these disadvantaged countries, in these disadvantaged situations. You don't help them by making them pay you money so you can rescue the website.
That is correct, and when you put it like that, it's just heinous, pernicious gibberish.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll just put this in the chat, but yeah, Megan's right. 2 hours and 6 minutes to go this interview. Yeah, we've been going an hour and 15 minutes, so we're probably not going to get to the end of this interview.
You can skip the whole video. No one cares about that.
Yeah, I just want to show some bits of it because I mean, really, I want to show some bits.
Do you have timestamps?
Unfortunately, I don't. If anyone's got some with the highlights.
Oh man, I was doing it this morning. I only got halfway through it. So what you have to show the lady at the end just before she leaves, saying she's going hard fascist and explaining that black people can't look after themselves.
Oh, is there at some point does she make a joke as well, or did I mishear? I didn't want to go back through 3 hours of watching it.
Who
did she refer to her to said, she's from Blackest Africa? Did I hear her say that?
I do not.
I thought it was either blackest or darkest.
I think she said darkest, meaning the jungle, like rather than the skin color.
Okay.
I
heard that and thought, oh, hang on, but I wasn't. Like I was just sort of listening to it remotely at the time.
And she's in South Africa. That's not. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, I hope she's not advocating for the system they used to have.
Well, she'd be fine under that system.
Oh yeah,
if it's benevolent, yeah, she would.
Yeah, benevolent dictator. It's fine. Don't worry, it's fine.
And I'm not implying that that's what.
No, there was some poor guy on the chat last night from Africa. He was from Zambia, and he couldn't believe what he was hearing. And he just typed in the chat. He said, "I live in Zambia, and this is absolutely shocking." I said, "Yeah, I know, right? Why would somebody say that out loud and then say I have to go pick up my kid?
It's unreal.
It's unreal."
I'll just go for a bit more of this.
And to take over from text, and my job title became Publications Director. So those were my personal areas of responsibility. Everything else was a matter for the whole board. Policy decisions were made by the whole board. I didn't personally,
actually can you
on my
pause
own,
again?
make any decisions that weren't involved with Secular World. Atheist.
Okay, so look, what he does is he goes over the same thing over and over and over again. So you're going to get a lot of him repeating. So, but what he says here, and it's something that I picked up on, he's making out as if certain individuals on the board only had responsibilities for certain things. Now, if you're a director on a board, you have a fiduciary obligation to your
legally,
members.
yeah, correct, legally,
absolutely. Now I can tell you now. You need to know. That's why you have board meetings, so you can go around and discuss it. And if there's any issues, it's brought up or it's picked up by the board. Now, if it's what he sort of he was a director for 3 years and he didn't know how much money they had in the bank. If that's not a breach of fiduciary obligations, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and moreover, we can all agree that the Nuremberg defense doesn't work anymore. I was just following orders. The organization decided this, and I was forced to go along with it. It doesn't really work anymore.
The thing is, though, it's like I'm sure in this at some point as well, he talks about collective responsibility of the board. So I'm like, you can't have this both ways, Mr. Richards. You can't have it like, just doing my bit, and then talk about like collective responsibility.
Wasn't he also the president of the board?
I don't think he was president.
No, okay.
He was. Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
I thought Hamill said later that he wasn't, so he chaired the meetings or something.
Who was president after Gail Miller, John? He'll know. John's all the names and dates guy. He has it all in his head. Yeah,
but I mean, look, it's ultimately what it comes down to is if
affiliates director. Sorry.
Okay.
If the as a director, you have a legal responsibility, but you also have a legal liability. So if Atheist Alliance International gets sued, they go after the directors. That's why most boards will have directors' insurance. So if you've got a legal liability, you are sure as hell making sure that everything is okay. But he does keep. I mean, he says the same things over and over again. Doesn't answer any of the questions. I think he makes a sport out of muting John Hamill. I've never seen anyone get muted. Like seriously, Darth Dawkins is jealous.
He's trying to. This is a technique. He's trying to incite John. It's not like an accident. He went in with that strategy, saying, "I am going to mute him as much as possible because John likes to express himself a certain way," thinking that John would explode in a sea of anger or whatever he thought he was going to get, and he didn't get that from John. And I have a lot of respect for John Hamill. And me and John, by the way, are completely different ends of the spectrum politically, but I have a lot of respect for how he handled himself last night.
I would have told John Richards to fuck off if he was doing that to me.
Me too. Yeah,
I
me
would.
too.
I don't think I
wouldn't have stayed 2.5 hours.
I wouldn't have kept my cool with him at all. Actually, I don't think I could have done.
So John Hamill outperformed all of us.
And
Yeah,
John
he
Richards is
was
the one who
extremely
rage quit.
patient. Sorry, what was that, Chris?
I was just saying, John Richards is the one who rage quits in the end.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what happens at the end.
Getting it, bang.
He rage quits his own podcast. That shouldn't be possible.
I haven't seen that
There's
part.
a lot of things that shouldn't have been possible we saw last night.
Literally, he ends this. He ends it by rage quitting his own podcast. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like we said, John Richards knows these techniques. We never said he was any fucking good at them.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I'm trying to think. If
And the YouTube channel. Sometimes I expressed a view in the board meetings, and sometimes, if I was very persuasive, my view was adopted. Other times it wasn't. And this is what's known as collective responsibility. But I'm afraid John likes to attack a person. He likes to personalize things and be insulting. If you look at his Twitter thread, you see that people who piled onto his Twitter thread said, John Richards is a piece of shit, and John Richards has no balls. But we don't have
Language.
Things have improved. And I'm going to show you what...
Mr. Richards, I thought that was you had a family-friendly show here. You can't use language like that.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Not family friendly.
It's fucking disgraceful.
We're still clipping that though because that's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, that's the clip. And what Tercia said later on, that's the clip.
Yeah, if anyone's got a timestamp of that, please let me know because we've got to play that. We've got to play that.
About 29:30, I think you'll find it is.
Yeah, it's down at the end. That's going on my personal YouTube thing. I don't care what you do with the clip. It's going on mine.
We definitely need to get that. If anyone's got a timestamp of the things Tercia said, please let me know because that is one bit we've got to play before we end this.
Well, you'll see because when you fast forward it, you'll see as soon as she's gone. Just go to the bit just before she leaves.
Yeah.
John Richards is a piece of shit, and John Richards has no balls.
AI is currently doing. If I can find that, let me see if I can find that upload. Yes. Okay. So bear with me. I'm going to play a short video because, as you said, Tercia, that was 5 years ago. It's history. But let me show you this.
Past this whole thing.
This. And John, this is playing for over 5 minutes.
I'm going to say, anyone. I don't suppose anyone wants to watch this, but
it just means it's the trains are running on time.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen this, it's a big list of things that AI has supposedly done in the last year or whatever. And then he's like, "What have you done? What have you done, Mr. Hamill?" You know.
None of the critics have ever questioned any of these things, by the way. None of the critics have questioned any of the good things. None of the critics have questioned that the trains are running on time and that is something that the organization should be doing. So it's completely irrelevant to say the trains are running on time if what you're criticizing is the Holocaust, you know?
But here's the thing, and here's a point I actually brought up because John Richards actually brought this up with me, and what I said to him, and this is on Twitter, I said, but how much more could have gotten done if there was transparency and there wasn't this pass, you know, if people did want to get on board, if you could actually unite all the atheist organizations. The thing is, okay, 21 things got done according to AAI last year. How many more? I mean, for an international organization that's got special affiliate status at the United Nations, if they're cheering that they got 21 things done and some of those is just, you know, like paying a couple of $100 to someone's family. I mean, come on, give me.
Do you know what they did with their consultative status at the United Nations last year? Do you know what they did?
Oh, didn't they send some stupid letter demanding that, you know, it's secularism?
Yes, they presented a video. They made a video. They didn't present it. They made a video saying we demand the right to be secular, which, by the way, is already taken care of in the UN Declaration of Human Rights from 1950 something. Completely stupid. They never presented the video because, I don't know, somebody woke up in the middle of it and said we can't present this if we want to be taken seriously as grown-ups.
Well,
that's what they did. That's the entirety of what they did with their UN consultative status. And fuck knows what they did with their consultative status at the Council of Europe. I'm going to guess nothing.
Well, we can only hope. Considering
we can only hope.
Well, I mean,
seriously, I mean, this is a group that's representing all of us here on an international stage. I mean, for fuck's sake.
For fuck's sake, is the correct reaction.
I'm going to say, I mean, and this is this consultative status of the UN. This is the thing they love to brag about more than anything else.
Yes.
This will be the first. This will come up in any defence by them of AAI. We're the only organisation that's got consultative status at the UN. You know that.
And it is something to brag about.
And yeah, it's a good thing to have. We need an organisation that's got that.
Yes.
I don't know at the moment whether we need this particular organisation, at least in its current form.
Oh, the religious groups are cheering.
Yes, the Catholic Church is making presentations to the UN. The various Islamic organizations are making submissions to the UN while the atheists are sitting there saying we demand the right to be secular. It's disgusting. It's a total abrogation of the whole point of having UN consultative status. And this guy then is making tendentious and specious arguments that make no sense.
Okay, 1 hour 36 minutes.
I was about to say it's about an hour 35.
About an hour and a half. We've been going for about an hour and a half now. So should we just get to that bit and then we'll do a wrap up, because we're not going to get through this whole stream, are we?
No. Do you want to zip straight to the lady? She's just slightly after halfway, I'd say.
I
had an hour 35.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll start it an hour 35. Let's see what happens.
Cool.
Come on. Now it's going to load.
Feeling groovy.
You might have deleted it.
Buffering.
No. YouTube's, when you upload them, they can be very patchy the day after.
Yeah.
I don't think he's deleted it. I think it's just patchy YouTube.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't know how to delete it.
I was
probably thinks it makes him look good.
Yeah, I'm sure he thinks he came out the positive person here. I mean, that's something Richard Dawkins figured out about when he was debating American evangelicals. Is he had to stop doing it because he figured out what they were doing. You know, that they were they weren't actually.
It's not a false analogy. These people performed a coup. They appropriated an organization that wasn't theirs. They had no mandate to take over control of it. They got no votes from anyone. They took over control of it without any mandate whatsoever, and then they give themselves top marks. It doesn't matter how many. I mean, personally, I think the organization is a total disaster, but it actually doesn't matter. It's not up to them to decide what's good and what's not. The number of votes, Tercia, that have been given to Howard.
What happened?
Pink screen. We got pink screens.
Berman, Bill Favale, and John Richards combined. All three combined is precisely zero. They have no mandate to take over that organization from anyone. They're utterly fraudulent and illegitimate.
I don't care. I care about the fact that the organization is building schools.
Well, 36 members who built the organization, Tercia.
She knows what the organization is doing.
Well, I think your attitude is utterly appalling.
I will accept the insults coming my way, which I expect. But I will tell you that my position, I'm actually quite fond of the idea of a benign dictator, because I live in a democracy where the ANC is the most democratic party in the world, and it's having very detrimental effects. So just to be upset about
Hamill's expression,
undemocratic behavior, to me, I'm more concerned about the outcome and the effect than how democratic something was. And that's just me. But maybe that's because I live under load shedding, and maybe I see people dying in hospitals and people dying of hunger because of democracy, because you can't eat democracy. And when there's a crisis, you sometimes need to take steps. And that's just me. So, and that has nothing to do with churches. That's my opinion.
Down to democracies up with dictators.
And there it is.
And there. My son.
Please do, Tercia.
Thank you for your help, Tercia. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow.
That's the problem with these black people in Africa. They just don't know how to rule themselves.
I know. It's. I mean, because no one was ever dying under apartheid. I mean, what a wonderful system that was.
Or any of the colonial countries in Africa.
No.
They were all doing quite well, weren't they? Algeria famously did very well under the French. The Congo did great under Belgium, as we know.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They're thriving.
The British improved Australia, apparently.
The black fellas, yeah.
It's no, look, what a ridiculous argument. But I mean, look, you could see the way that she was acting it. But even she said, you know, she starts listing, oh, they've done this, they built school, they've done this, they've done that. Not bad for someone who didn't know anything about the organization an hour and a half earlier.
Yeah, she was prepped and briefed.
She's a quick study. She probably got she's probably got the script in advance.
But here's the thing. But she's a quick study, except for the point is, as was brought up earlier, she's saying, I don't, you know, like, I don't care if this organization is democratic. This goes back to what we said earlier. They want to keep their consultative status with the UN. They want to think about being more democratic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But, well,
I'd say it's quite
democratic.
I'd say it's quite important to I'd say it's quite important to AAI. You know.
Well, fortunately, she's only been aware of AI for an hour and a half at this point. So
imagine spending an hour and a half.
Infiltrate.
John's Hamill's whole argument there was that the AI is not a democratic organization, and he has his documents and internal correspondence and so on and so forth to demonstrate it. Imagine sitting through that for an hour and a half, and then at the end of it, you say, "Well, fuck democracy."
Yeah, it's pretty special, isn't it?
It's pretty special.
Yeah. I mean, good. I'm going to say, Terence, good. I've never met you before. Good job moderating and being neutral there. That was fucking brilliant. Good job. You know, and I actually will give her some credit for something. You see, you're the first time I've ever seen I've ever seen on a stream with John Richards who's ever managed to make themselves look more of like a fucking moron than John Richards himself. Good fucking job.
He comes across as condescending and yeah, exactly. Like I would have said at the start, somehow superior and like a child at the same time, and that should not be possible. But he's in this narrow window of condescension, and I don't know what does he think he's coming across as?
Smugly smiling.
Yes,
the whole time.
And he interrupts John on a number of occasions that we haven't seen, as well as the first one where he says, "Oh, John, you forgot to say that I'm." One of the words that John uses to describe him, incompetent or something. So you forgot to use this one in the middle of when John is trying to say something. And it's just like, I mean, the fact that it's like one of these girls, you know, who they say, "Oh, I'm such a bitch." That doesn't make you less of a bitch. The fact that you're aware of it, you know.
Oh, it's the attitude and the way that this was handled was, you know, I went in to watch it. Yeah, as someone who's fairly charitable towards John Richards.
Yeah, you've done well, Chris, being charitable towards him today, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it's look, I think my charity for John Richards is all used up. You know, I just thought that he was not very good at getting his point across, a little bit clueless. You know, a bit of an innocent fool, I guess you could say. Not that I think that he's an unintelligent person, but I think socially very unaware. But I think the whole thing he's tried to pull off a setup today and fucking miserably failed, mind you. And he's really come out of this looking stupid. But because even I remember, and Jeff, you'll back this up in groups we're in. I've actually said, oh look, all this stuff that's going on with AI, just take it with a grain of salt, because it's, you know, let's get the facts first. Let's just see, you know, let's not just jump on the hate train. Two sides to everything, and these things aren't always as simple or black and white. And apparently in this case, it's pretty black and white. It's very very clear what's happened. Very clear.
Yes, John has documents for everything he's saying. John expresses himself in an aggressive, confrontational way, right? That's fine. But what he does have, he also has documentary evidence for everything he's saying. He has witness testimony from people who were in the room when these things were said and decided, and internal correspondence between various members of this organization, some of which are absolutely disgusting, because they think that they're talking to each other. Like in one of them, they famously say, the podcast that I'm a guest on, the Free Thought podcast, they call us leprechauns, which is funny. I mean, it is funny.
That's quite fun. Yeah,
it is funny. I'm not going to. Photos came up with that, and that is quite amusing. But at the same time, it's not the kind of thing that you want to like. It's not how you'd wish to express yourself if you're trying to be taken seriously as a professional organization.
No. Actually, one thing I do want to ask, I know John Hamill is in the chat. It's an important question, and it is a question that he was asked and didn't address towards the end of it. John Richards invited him to be the Irish correspondent for his Free Thought project. I'm just wondering if John Hamill will be taking up John Richards' offer to become the Irish correspondent.
Yeah, John, are you going to be the Irish correspondent for John Richards' newsletter?
Yeah, because it's. I thought that was a very important question that.
If John can't do it, but will Barry do it?
Me? You don't want me on it.
But once again, that shows the idiocy of the way that John Richards treated. I mean, at the end of all that and the way he's carried on, like how. Like,
I applied for an atheist blog and I said no. I have an atheist blog myself, and I like it because I have complete control over it, and I run my own atheist blog, and that'll do me.
Yeah. It's just it was just such a condescending way. Oh, you can be my Irish correspondent. And the thing is, I think he was half serious.
Well, this is the thing I've noticed with him before, though, that he does, and it is condescending. I mean, Chris, you remember the whole thing that happened back with that whole convention that he and that other guy were trying it, and then there was the whole shit that happened on David Wardy's podcast.
Oh yeah, with his drunk mate.
Yeah, I mean, but you remember that there was a number of, let's say, quite well-known atheist YouTubers who started having to go, including Rachel Oates. And do you remember the condescending blooming video that he had with holding the teddy bear there for Rachel Oates? And I'm like,
oh shit, I forgot about that.
And I was just like, that's the first time I saw John Richards, and I thought, you smug prick.
I forgot about that. Shit. Yeah, you're right.
Mm.
And by the way, I'm fine with smug people as long as they have something to be smug about. I'm fine with people being arrogant assholes. Like Bob Dylan is an arrogant asshole, but I'm fine with him being an arrogant asshole because he knows what he's doing.
Arrogant asshole.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that. But this guy has seen. I mean, Chris has given me new information today, in that he says he doesn't think he's unintelligent, and I've seen zero evidence that John Richards is not unintelligent. And I don't know, like, where he's getting that from. But I mean, he's not doing anything. He's not doing himself any favors. He's being smug and condescending with absolutely no reason for being that like that.
He's got assertions with nothing to back it up with, unlike what Hamill had.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. That's what I meant to say. That's much better than what I said. Thank you.
I'm going to play one more bit of this, actually, because there was someone asking, how did the end last night?
Oh yeah, okay.
Rage quit.
So let's play the last few seconds of this, shall we? Right, this is
an organisation which has a bit more clout than John Hamill on his own, and therefore it's probably a good idea to help it.
I disagree, John. When you were presenting yourself on the board of as being on the board of AAI, you had exactly the same mandate as I did. Zero. I mean, I don't have a mandate to present myself as a director on the board of an international organisation, but neither did you. You just did it anyway. So it's not the case that AAI has more clout than me. The people involved in AAI at the minute are a bunch of frauds, imposters, and charlatans.
No, they're well-intentioned people who are doing good work in the name of
they're practiced liars who are frauds and charlatans who have published many lies on their website, which are still on their website today.
John, I've had enough of this. You just don't stop, do you? Just accusations.
Show you some of the lies. Would you like me to show you some of them?
This is turning into a child's playground haranguing, bullying event.
I'd like to point you to the doctor.
The victims are being ignored. So it's my bedtime, John.
I'm not ignoring them. I'm
That is literally how he ended the podcast last night.
That is how Scream ended.
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to end all my podcasts like that from now on. It's my bedtime. Bye.
Yeah.
He's not the first guy I've ever seen who's rage quit his own podcast.
That's brilliant, right? And that's after he has the mute button.
Credits.
I'm going to say he's had the mute button throughout this whole thing. He actually could have kicked John Hamill if he wanted to.
Yes.
I think I've never seen it. I've never seen someone rage quit their own stream before.
It is very interesting to see it.
Look, there was a lot of things that I don't think we've ever seen before on a stream that John Richards managed to pull off last night. I mean,
well, as I said earlier, every time I've seen John Richards on with anyone, including you, Chris, and I think you were very fair to the guy when you interviewed him. He still came across as a bit of a dickhead, and he didn't need to. But the only thing that I'd say was that's happened today that's different about this one is that Tertier has come across as even more of a swat than he is.
Maybe he is really smart, and that's why he got her on.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought the fascist was going to take the flag. Did not work. Failed. Because Tercia left in the middle to pick up her kid.
How inconvenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why couldn't she do what John did and just say, go away?
See, years ago, she could just send her slave... Sorry, that's not nice. My aunt lived in South Africa for a while, and she had to leave because she said she had a black lady to come in and clean the house or whatever. This is just how things were done. And there was one day where the black lady wanted to watch this television show. And she said, can I watch the television show? And my aunt is white. And my aunt said, yes. And the black lady was outside the house looking at the television show through the window. And she said, do you not want to come in and watch the TV show? And the black lady said, I can't do that. It's illegal for me to be inside your house after this, she says. And if the police come, they're not going to arrest me. They're going to arrest you for allowing the black person into your house after that. I'm protecting you by staying outside the house. My aunt then said, fuck this noise. I have to leave this country. And she left. Imagine a system that's that fucking disordered. And she wants to get back to it.
That's why they have people dying in hospitals, because the country was basically just, ripped apart. All the resources were just
raped.
Oh yeah,
So,
it was.
I think we sum up thoughts on that. I mean, I know, Andrew, you didn't quite get to the end of it. You've just seen the end of the stream now, but
I just saw the very end.
Yeah, but any last thoughts? Anyone got any last thoughts to sum up that stream?
That was a shit show, and the thumbnail was exactly what it should have been.
Yeah, fucking dumpster fire.
Yeah, clearly John Richards was legitimate. Everything was above board. There was nothing to see. And down with democracy.
I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just summarising his
they're
thoughts.
Doing very well, but Chris, they're doing very good work,
The trains are running on time.
Exactly.
Yes, I know. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
I just
It's
never
like the
thought I'd
Catholic
see I'd never sort of see anyone who's defending an atheist organisation use the Roman Catholic Church defence. I never thought I'd see that.
Yeah, actually, the Free Thought podcast said the same thing as you said, Godless Scummer. Do you remember? You see the flash at the very last? He said that's what the bishops would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think I guess to look at it from a practical point of view, there's some things that have gone on that weren't right. Now, they're things that could have been very easily cleared up, or even just, you know what? Yeah, we made some mistakes. We didn't realize we came in. We weren't familiar with the bylaws. We probably should have been, but we didn't prioritize it. We made mistakes. It's very embarrassing, and we tried to rectify it as soon as we could.
I think that's beyond them, Chris. I think that is beyond their capabilities, their emotional maturity level.
It's simple. Rather than trying to defend the indefensible, I mean, John wasn't elected. And all that had to happen, this is the idiocy of it. Like, from a brief look at the bylaws, all that had to happen was he had to nominate if no one else was running against him, which it sounds like they were struggling to get people on the board anyway. So he probably wasn't going to have anyone running against him in any of those years. All he had to do was nominate, and he's automatically elected. It gets put in the minutes. Yes. Everything's legitimate.
Well, Chris, on that, one of the reasons why Howard Berman gave for not having a proper AGM to make him the president was that he said every candidate for the presidency in the history of the organization has run unopposed and got it automatically. So that's, you're right, in other words. They should have just had a proper meeting and everything would have been fine.
Oh, gosh.
I know, right?
That's
ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, I've been in things where I've been in work, because I used to be a trade union steward where I work now. There were several times where I ran unopposed. You try to make a big deal of the fact that, hey, my term's up. Anyone else wants to stand? Look, you can do. At least twice, I was the only person who stood. So yeah, in that respect, I kind of got the job automatically because I was the only person standing to do it. But
yeah, and it's not uncommon. But also, by the same token, there's a process you have to go through, because okay, maybe it is the norm that presidents are elected unopposed, and usually that's because people do deals behind the scenes. And right, well, I've got the votes, so what if you come on as my vice president and we all work together? I've been elected as a president unopposed to a board. I've also had to run against someone, and you know what? You go through the process, you have the vote, you say your bit, they say their bit beforehand, and then people vote, and it's always a silent ballot where a winner's declared at the end, and that's it. But you
mean like a secret ballot?
Yeah, always. Yeah, with people who aren't involved, you would always organise for a returning officer.
Yep.
It's really, I mean, it's not also complicated stuff.
On that, Chris, again, the last conversation our podcast had with Bill Flavell, one of the people on our podcast had a conversation with Bill Flavell where we asked him who voted for whatever. He produced a list of which delegates voted for which candidate.
Oh God.
This is, by the way, this
Oh,
podcast didn't go into any of these things, and just the amount of corruption, stupidity, incompetence, and bad will in this organization is so massive that we could do another 2.5 hours, which we're not. We're going to do another 2.5 hours on it.
There's a bit I missed, and I know John Hamill brought this up in here, and John Richards apparently didn't know this. I want to read this bylaw 59 out here. Okay, it says, Board directors and members in good standing may propose motions for discussion at a general meeting. Motions must not involve contravention of the bylaws and must be submitted to the secretary at least 4 weeks prior to the date of the meeting. Motions shall be voted by board directors and members and passed by a simple majority. The board shall take motions so passed into consideration, but may use its discretion as to whether and how to act upon them. That was brought up as relevance because I'm trying to remember what it was John Richards was kind of saying about.
Well, it's irrelevant because it means that you could have a unanimous motion from all the delegates can sign on to the same thing, and the board can say no, we don't feel like doing that according to bylaw 59.
Yeah. That is.
It's not an uncommon clause in bylaws, something like that. But I mean, it usually would have in extraordinary circumstances, and it would occur, say, in the event of someone wants to put to a vote to ban gay people from the organisation or from sitting on the board. At that point is when you would say, well, no, we're going to use our discretionary power to say no, that won't be going to a vote, or we're not going to allow that. Yeah. That's where something like that would be used, but it certainly wouldn't be worded in the way it's worded there.
And surely they would have the criteria in the bylaw, not just leave it generally out there.
You would think so, and normally it would, but yeah, and yeah, in case AI was taken over by feminists, and that's why, and that's ironically that's why bylaws like that will be put in. It's also designed to stop people from coming in and branch stacking, essentially, but it's always extraordinary circumstances and something that would, if legally challenged, be legally recognized as extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
Would you normally have a bylaw that said that if the board did that, then the board's decision could be overturned by a supermajority or something?
Not usually.
Okay.
But it's one of those things that's put in, it's worded very carefully and very, very rarely used. It's only in the case of you get someone who joins with the intention of disrupting. So say, for instance, you had a group of affiliates who joined and got affiliate status, but weren't really acting in the best interest of atheism because they were really Islamist groups masquerading who wanted to stop LGBTQ members, or if you had racist groups who identified as atheists who said, well, we don't think anyone from Africa should be allowed to serve as president, or certain things like that. That's where it's there for. So it's not uncommon, but it's always should be preceded by the words extraordinary, have the words extraordinary circumstances. Like it needs to be something that would be, if it went to court, a court would say, yes, this is clearly an extraordinary circumstance, not something like it just doesn't suit the board members or it's not what they want.
Well, as written, it's not open to abuse. We can agree on that.
As it's written terribly.
Yeah, it's open to abuse.
It's not written good.
I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm assuming this is one of those bylaws that may have been altered. I don't know. John would probably know better than, John Hamill would probably know better than I would on this. I don't know if it's one of the ones that's been altered since 2017. I sort of tend to found through sort of numerous conferences type things for lobbying organizations that I've been to, that nothing that worded that poorly would actually get through Well, yes, it is. Well, yes, that it has been amended since 2017. Is what you're saying. I think. Yeah. See, anything that I know, like I can tell you now, I've been a delegate to a trade union conference at least twice. I have been a delegate to a political party conference at least once.
Tanky.
I've been delegate to like a motorcycle lobbyist, thing that I was involved with before. I can tell you all of these things because there's generally a section about things like bylaws and like rules and so on. And sometimes, sometimes there could be a motion about changing like the word "and" to "or" in something that already exists. Now, as daft as that seems, there's kind of a point behind this, and yeah, you can have it back because they really want to get the language of these things correct.
Precise.
None of these bylaw changes were put to a vote. That's the thing. They assembled their fake EGM in 2018 behind the backs of people who were being asked to fix the democratic nature of the organization. FFRF and Atheist Ireland were working on a plan to democratize the Atheist Alliance International. While they were doing that and involved in that operation, while the AAI higher-ups were involved in that operation, they were also organizing this AGM that they didn't tell those people about. They had their AGM, fixed their bylaws, which changed all these things and introduced all these stupid shit, and then carried on and just told FFRF and AI that's, oh, yeah, we're done now. Thanks. Good morning. They basically strung along for months in what was a disgraceful episode.
Well, it sounds to me like if they've been operating off bylaws that aren't really ratified, that what needs to happen immediately is the board needs to be dissolved and it needs to go to an immediate election with the old bylaws in place.
I love that, guys. I love Godless Scummer's icon avatar.
Yeah, no worries. So
I want to listen to your band. I want to buy your records.
I don't have a band. I'm just.
Oh, shut up! I can see your icon profile. Yeah. So that's what Chris just said is correct. What I call the Dunitz protocol. The only responsibility of anybody on any board after 2018 is to immediately resign. The Dunitz protocol.
Has to go back to, it has to refer back to the previous bylaws.
Correct.
And basically it start again with and offer voting to anyone who was a member in 2017.
Precisely. Anybody who's a member of 2017 gets a vote. Yes.
It has to be retrospective because everything that's happened over the last 5 years is illegitimate.
Correct. Thank you, Chris.
I think you've got a fan here, Chris.
Oh, I don't think I'd want the job.
You don't want the headaches that come with that, do you?
Actually, you know what? I declare myself president right now.
Oh, no, too late. We've already done that. On our podcast last week, we had our own AGM, which was compiled and convened under precisely the same bylaw logic that the 2018 AGM was convened under. I am now the social media manager at large. Seamus, the guy in charge of the podcast, Seamus is the president. John is the secretary, John Hamill, and there's a friend of ours called Martin Boers who is
I'm
vice
going to have to catch up and listen to that, actually, because I was wondering.
I'm going to have a chat to John Richards and find out how to do it.
Did John Richards bring something up about that in the stream? And he was a bit pissy about that.
Good.
Yeah, he threw a tanty about that.
Another one.
Yeah. He threw a lot of tanties.
I'm the social media manager at large. That's what the position I got voted. And Shirley Rivera got voted to the post of whatever the fuck she wants.
Well, I'm not going to. I wouldn't argue with Shirley enough to.
Oh.
Oh dear.
I should say thank you very much for allowing me to speak on your podcast because you didn't know anything about me before clicking the button. Thanks very much.
I just saw a couple of your comments in the chat, and I figured you kind of probably you come in. I was a little worried about adding you at first. I wasn't sure, and then I sort of clicked.
Yeah, you should be. I'm a prick.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in good company then.
Thanks for letting me on, though. I appreciate it. I like to say bits.
Does anyone have anything they would like to plug before they go?
I have a blog called Atheist Cartoons on Tumblr.
I'm going to start doing podcasts on the channel again. Doing a few things a little bit different. Keep an eye out. I might even do something tomorrow.
Cool.
Oh, you would do when I'm back at work. Yeah, but I can listen to you while I'm working.
Yeah, why not? Well, actually, no, it'll be at a different time. It'll be US night time, my day, because it's I've kind of rejigged my entire life at the moment. So yeah, well, just keep an eye out. But I know I'm on with the famous Tangelo tomorrow about this time. Your best mate Isaiah. So that's a Christian podcast I'm going on. So that'll be a bit of fun.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. I'll
I'll
need them with this guy.
Good luck.
No, he hasn't been in to chat today, Dr. Evil, has he? Yeah.
No, it's because he's been messaging me all day.
He's a boy, isn't he?
But no, look, I'm over at Hereticals. Anyone who wants to subscribe, come and
I think
subscribe.
Critical Cupcake
Thanks,
also
Chris.
shared it earlier as well. Check out, guys. Also check out the Free Thought Prophet as well.
Yes, I'm also on
please
that
check
podcast, and I'm being adorable and wonderful on that podcast too.
Yeah, I think it's out, and especially as John Hamill is such a regular on there, and
well, he
I
co-runs it with Seamus.
Yeah,
I'm just a
and
guest on it.
he after his performance last night, he definitely deserves a plug. So check out the Free Thought Prophet. Andrew, you got anything you want to plug or?
Just that I'm occasionally on Purple Rhymes with Oranges streams.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, okay.
Purple rhymes with orange.
Yeah, well, we all know Purple. She's awesome. So, as for me, I don't have anything immediately coming up. I will just say I'm still in negotiation to get. We were last week. I was supposed to have Cindy Lincoln on, and then we had to cancel because things got messed up for her and it got messed up for me. But hopefully we're going to have that soon. People don't know who Cindy Lincoln is. She is the former wife of one, and I'm going to quote unquote, Dr. Kent Hovind.
Oh, Kent Hovind.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Kent Hovind's ex-wife, and she's got an awful lot to say about him.
Oh, cool. I'm looking like, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
My commiserations.
Actually,
Yes.
Jeff, really quickly, I'm just going to say one last thing. It's my bedtime. Goodbye.
Chris.
I should say one last thing as well. It's my bedtime. Goodbye.
I'd stick around, but it's my bedtime, so goodbye.
Okay, everyone. It's my bedtime. Goodbye.